Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. I need you to check that out right now. Subscribe.
No word, John, as to who KJ Watt is signing with, but JJ Watt is signing with the Cardinals, according to him. Per source, Schefter reports Cardinals are giving him a 2-year, $31 million contract that includes $23 million. Schefter attributes that to a source. We don't know who the source on that one is, but JJ Watt's going to the Arizona Cardinals. Pretty shocking. Pretty shocking.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to I would say to be shell shocked, a jaw dropper with free agent moves, and I'm sure we'll have some over the next couple weeks with a player, maybe even a trade. Right, we've seen a couple of those the last couple of years of like a Stephon Diggs to the Bills or something. You're like, whoa, but even that you kind of knew the guy was on the trading block. I think this one I was shocked. My jaw was wide open when he tweeted out the picture with the shirt. Honestly, at first, I kind of like clicked to see if he was going to have like an add-on quote saying like, "Hey, these are my options," or something.
Like in 4 different shirts.
Yeah, I waited a second to go. That he's not going to the Cardinals. He just said it's down between the Cardinals, the Packers, and the Chiefs. But then nothing else came, and it was like, okay, he's just the source. It was crazy. But then you see the number, which came, I'd say, relatively fast after the picture kind of went viral, and you understood it. I mean, they gave him – he was scheduled to make $17 million. And the way the rules are with a guy like him, even though none of it was guaranteed, right? He had no more guaranteed money. Let's say the Texans had just kept him or traded him, which they claimed there were some options, but they did right by him. Whoever traded for him, you are stuck with that $17.5 million unless you cut him right before the season, because if he's a guy like him, a vested veteran, if he's on the roster week 1, he would have made $17.5 million. And you and I had talked about he was not a 7. The reason guys get cut, quote unquote, cap casualties, is not because like JJ Watt was technically a cap casualty. And I think like Preston Smith, one of the Smith brothers with the Packers, might be a cap casualty. See it all around the league, quote unquote, cap casualties. It's not because they're not starting caliber players. It's because their cap hit, let's say, like JJ, 17.5. No team values his cap number. They value him as an $8 million player. So it's like, I want the guy, he would start for my team, but I can't trade for a number that I don't value him at. That's why those guys are cut, because they have no trade value, even though they have value as players. The thing with him, I'd say that's unique with a lot of cap casualties, is you see a guy that's making $12 million. They get cut. That guy usually might get like a 2-year deal at like $16 million. So it's like 2 years or $8 million a pop, right? Had to take a little less. And maybe the guarantee is like 7. So he's not even guaranteed to make that 10, but he still feels pretty good about himself. JJ flew by that 17.5 number, which I was going to be, no one was sniffing that. And I thought most of the good teams was like, he might have to play for 3 to 8, somewhere in that range, maybe like a 3 million with a ton of incentives, 5 million ton of incentives. They basically gave him, like we had thought, like 2 years, 30. I kind of thought 23 million, guy. That is a shit ton. 23 million for a guy who's, what was the stat you gave me like a couple weeks ago? He's missed 3 of the last 5 seasons. He hasn't played a full season.
He hasn't played half a season in 3 of the last four seasons. Well, take it back. In 19, he played 8 games. So he played half a season that year. The year before that, he played 16. The year before that, he played 5. The year before that, he played 3. And obviously, this year he played 16. We'll get back to JJ Watt in just a moment, John. But first, MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM, and the number 1.
Yep, it's where we gamble. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM, and the number 1. You can gamble on a lot of things, guy. We got a golf tournament this weekend. We got March Madness right around the corner. You got the NBA All-Star Game. You want to dabble in that. You got the NBA second half. You got baseball starting right up. You were telling me the Dodgers, heavy favorite. You want to dabble on some kind of good long shots like the Cardinals, like the Indians. I mean, there's some out there. So the Padres 7-1. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1.
Use the promo code HAM1. They'll match that first deposit 50% up to $1,000. Don't forget, if you accept the bonus, you'd have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw it. You can also decline the bonus. But either way, use promo code HAM1. That way they know we sent you.
Do it right now. I think he was one of the league leaders. Tough to say. Try to say that 10 times. In snaps played this year. So I think he's saying, listen, I'm healthy now. When you do see him, a little Gronkian, right? He's got pads all over his body, a little like Barry Bonds. It's like, I have admiration. The guy's clearly a tough guy, but he's put together by the training staff, it feels like, right?
Feels older than he is. He'll turn 32 in 3 weeks at the end of March.
He's a weathered 32.
Feels like I'd say like a 34, 35-year-old player.
You say him and Gronk kind of similar?
I think very similar.
In their bodies.
Yep. I think the big elbow, to me, the quarterbacks with knee braces, and then any like big guys with the elbow guard makes it look like you're screwed, like we had to put you back together, right? Which in some ways they really do. I've got a number of questions about this. One would be, how desperate was Arizona? Like, how much was Arizona? Very. And to me, it's a little scary when you're a team in their position, when you have a second-year quarterback coming into his third year, Kyler, who at a time this year looked like he could be in the MVP conversation. Maybe not at the top of it, but when you have that level of player, to me, I guess they're thinking maybe you don't have a cheap quarterback that long, so your window to spend money and make a championship run is small.
And that's a fact. That's a fact.
That is a fact. But my overall my take from this angle is you shouldn't feel like a desperate team, like you're doing things that could hurt you in the long run when you have a quarterback in the position that you do with Kyler. Like, you should be steadily building this bad boy up. It doesn't feel like J.J. Watt's the missing piece here. So it feels like it feels to me like their roster building is it's out of sync right now. Now, that just happens sometimes. But my question again would be, they overpaid because they're the Arizona Cardinals. They had to have. By how much?
Well, I think you saw two teams really stood out to me that it felt like had a pretty good chance to get them, were the Bills and the Packers. Because I think if JJ had gone to either team, we'd be like, it's not crazy to think they could be in the Super Bowl next year, especially the Packers, right? It made where he was from, but it wasn't just like your typical, well, Jack Del Rio took the Raider job. He's from Alameda. He's from Hayward. Like, yeah, no one gives a shit. But I think with Rodgers and I don't know, the Packers being good, it actually made a lot of sense. You're like, kind of go home, help being the missing piece on that defense and get them over the hump. But like, they ain't paying you. Would you play for kind of the Richard Sherman version of what the Niners gave them? 5 years that could equal 15 if you get double-digit sacks, if you make a Pro Bowl. They could have easily set up something like that. That, to me, is what winning teams would have been interested in doing. A team that's desperate pays a guy an absurd amount of money. It had to do that because if you're JJ, and I know this is not how players think, like he's already convincing himself, like, I'll help be the leader.
That's right.
I'll get this defense going.
Hopkins, Buda Baker.
Yeah, we already got
Chandler
some good
Jones.
players.
Look at
drafted
Kyler.
The dude from Clemson, Isaiah Simmons. I'll help mentor him into a beast. We'll fucking be Chandler Jones. We'll be monsters. But the reality is, and I think what most people are seeing when they think this is like, well, the Cardinals ain't going to the playoffs, bro. And maybe we're wrong, but I would bet against it because I'm betting against the coach. Like, JJ, you're tying yourself to Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
Like, and you've just seen kind of the craziness in coaches. That's pretty crazy. Like, but are you trying to get credit from the outside? He got an absurd amount of money. And it felt like they paid him so much money he couldn't say no because my gut, and listen, I'm sure stories are going to come out. I'd be shocked if any title contender, just given that most of these title contenders, when you look around, like Josh Allen needs to be paid. Obviously, the Packers have a ton of money invested into several players. Devontae Adams might need a contract extension. Their number, I bet it was single-digit guaranteed dollars. Single-digit meaning single-digit millions. Not like $10 like me and you talk about. Right? I'm talking like maybe $7 million. And listen, we're all trying to get paid. But I do think the power of being a super rich person in any field, now it's unique because you have a finite time to play football. Most fields like business, podcast, whatever, you can do a lot longer. And JJ might be like, this is my last couple years. But like a player of his caliber, being a champion carries a lot of weight for a lot of years, right? And I think sometimes you see players like Ndamukong Suh, who's going to be a free agent. He just won a Super Bowl. So if he goes to the shittiest team in the league, I can't blame him. He just kind of took a little less to go to Tampa the last couple of years. It worked out. He now has a ring. Forever, when I introduced Ndamukong Suh, when he's up there talking with Warren Buffett, he's viewed as a champion. And J.J. Watt is going to go down as one of the great players of his generation, non-quarterback. Hell, he's going to go down as one of the greatest players of all time, non-quarterback, right? One of the truly great defensive linemen, and more than likely he'll never sniff a Super Bowl, and that to me is kind of sad.
Yeah,
It really is.
I agree. I also think the reverse could be happening. You said he might be thinking this is his last contract. Isn't it possible he's thinking he's going to get another contract? Because I think it looked like his career was dead in the water 3 years ago, and now he's back. Maybe he's thinking, I feel better than ever. I'm only 32 this season. Brady's playing until he's 44, 48. Again, I'm not saying this is correct. I'm just saying maybe he does think there's another contract out there that he does have in 3 years, a contract with a team for $5 million where he's chasing a ring. I don't know. It doesn't feel right, but I could see if he thinks that way. To me,
is there a number that every human, no matter what business you're in, where it's almost gross negligence to your family if the number is 3 or 4 or 5 times bigger than whatever?
Like if the Bucs are offering you $16 million. Now I'm about to say that's $7 million less. You're just leaving $7 million. But if the Bucs offer was $16 million, I think this is more of a conversation. Like, I don't know, JJ, you could have chased a championship there with them.
No state income tax.
Still made
you start doing the math.
$17 million. And he'd be like, or $16 million. And he'd be like, yeah, that's another $7 million is what I just made. If he offers $8 million versus $23 million, I mean, he is already one of the biggest stars in the league without a ring. Like, is Subway paying him more in 15 years if he's got a ring than if he doesn't? He's already just such a big star. Like Charles Barkley is Charles making more money in his post-playing career if he has a ring? Turns out probably not. Even though I agree with you, like just winning a ring. But to me, winning a ring and like elevating your post-career financial marketing opportunities matters more for guys that aren't like tier 1 stars.
I'm even talking about just what do you think he spends all this time working for in the gym and stuff to try to win, right? To try to be a great player.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just saying that in the conversation of like, can he make that money up later if he wins a championship? This
argument would have been specifically the Green Bay Packers. I do think if he had won a championship, because he would have been viewed, because Rodgers just won the MVP, could not have played any better. If J.J. Watt went there, they go back to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Again, this is a huge hypothetical. We see this every year. Like, well, if you went there, you could make a Super Bowl run, then that team misses. That's very possible. You do agree, though, that would change the course of the way we talk about J.J. Watt. If he was a Packer Super Bowl champion and viewed as the missing piece, I think that just changes.
Yeah, if you perform that way, did we dramatically? I'm not sure we dramatically changed the way we talk about Ndamukong Suh.
Well, Ndamukong Suh's not even close to being on his level.
Okay, I guess time will tell, right? Like, do we dramatically change the way we talk about Devin White over time? Maybe we do. Probably too early to say.
This guy is on a complete. This guy to me though is like a first ballot Hall of Famer type.
Let me put it this way. I agree with
Charles Woodson is a good example.
Yeah, you win a championship, centerpiece of the defense. Yes.
But do you think Charles Woodson is more valuable because he's viewed as a Super Bowl champion?
What's that?
Like when I introduced Charles Woodson, now he's a Hall of Famer, but like I do think that championship with the Green Bay Packers changed the narrative of his career.
The point you're making is not even debatable. I can't even debate it. So yeah. But what I'm saying is, at what cost is it like, all right, I want to be Super Bowl champion, but they're offering me $4 million and they're offering me $23 million.
I know.
Can I say he doesn't care about winning because he took 23 instead of 7? I can't say that at that number, at these numbers. And again,
I tend to agree.
I think sometimes we got to look at these guys like, I bet he thinks he's got another contract in him.
Well, and I even think you're a step ahead. I think he thinks like I can go there and we can be successful.
I think,
and that's be my pushback, JJ. Just check out Cliff's resume.
Right.
And even Kyler, who you and I think a lot of people like the MVP buzz was not like he was legitimately a little star, but part of him being little is like he starts getting slammed into the ground. You just saw like as the season went on, you're like, is this guy going to be able to have a 10-year career? Because I was one of his biggest fans. I was texting buddies in the NFL. I was like, God, this guy is really talented. And then that Thursday night game, he gets slammed against Seattle, and you just go, you just being that small, getting slammed by these big guys, is it going to be possible to have a 12-year career the way he plays too, right? Because he's running around. It made me think, like, because there's no argument that Kyler works in the NFL, right? Fully healthy, he can play, and he can win. It's just, but can he 16 games year after year, like, is it going to be sustainable? I question that. I do not question his talent. He's a first overall, they did the right thing. But, like, can they win with them? That is definitely yet to be figured out. And their coach, to me, is even a way bigger question mark than – like, I know Kyler is NFL caliber, is their coach.
Which you could then say this is the reason to go for it now is because you don't know how big your quarterback's window is. If we were going to really play out this –
They do have a lot of talent on the team, right? They have their first-round pick. They had some good draft picks to go along with all the talent on the roster. Their talent on the roster is playoff caliber, right? If I told you McVay or Shanahan or LaFleur or Sean McDermott or a guy like that was the coach of the Cardinals, I think we would view them as a really good team, right?
Yep. We would view them as a team on the rise.
To be reckoned with.
Which some people were. I mean, there was that whole conversation this year.
Well, they were. Remember, they were winning. Didn't they start like 8-2 and then somehow they missed the playoffs? Remember that?
Yeah.
That happened. We watched it. It was and you and I lived on the West Coast, watched the Cardinals really close. It was hard for me ever to take them seriously after the Niners went in and beat them with a bunch of backups and kind of kicked their ass. Remember in that Amazon game in the middle of a Saturday? It was like, oh my God, when they had to win.
They had to win. Yep.
All right, he's a rich man.
Well, we'll talk about it more on the podcast as well coming up on Tuesday.